Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror and thriller film called The Collection. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. During a car ride, Mr. Peters comforts his young daughter, Elena, over her mother's death. He reassures her by saying that he will always be with her every step of the way. Suddenly, another vehicle crashes into their car. In multiple television broadcasts, the serial killer with the alias The Collector has been the central focus of a massive manhunt. His signature scheme is to kill all his victims and spare one whom he kidnaps. Arkin, his latest victim, is still on a missing list, as authorities extract all resources they have to retrieve him. Years after the accident, Elena is now a teenager with hearing problems due to the crash, so she wears a hearing aid to assist her daily. That night, she receives a call from her boyfriend, Brian, who cancels plans with her because of his work. Not long after, she receives a call from Missy and Josh, who invite her to an entry by password-only party in an undisclosed location. She gets ready and kisses her father before she leaves for the night. They arrive at an empty alley, where a guy opens a door just behind them. Elena says the word nevermore, and they instantly gain access to the lively scene. Inside, they start to party the night away. Suddenly, Elena sees Brian making out with another woman among the crowd. She punches him in the face as payback before walking away from the dance floor. Unbeknownst to the partygoers, the notorious collector is watching all of them from above the club and picking his new victims. Elena gets out of Missy's sight to have a moment, ending up in an isolated room where she finds a big red box. After looking intently, it starts moving as if someone is inside. She unlocks it out of curiosity only to find a seriously injured Arkin. He grabs Elena out of desperation for freedom, and they dodge a spear shot from the wall. It prompts a deadly trap back in the dance floor orchestrated by the collector. A big rotating blade starts plunging into the pool of people, and Brian spots it right away, giving him time to run. The machine starts shredding hundreds of people inside the club in just a matter of seconds, resulting in a bloodbath. Back in the room, Elena gets frightened and runs outside, where she steps on a very thin wire which initiates swords to fling out, hitting people fatally. Meanwhile, Missy and a group of people get trapped as two steel barriers drop in a small section. The collector stands on a shaft from above which lowers gradually, crushing the victims to death as Elena watches her best friend in complete horror. As she opens her eyes, she sees the collector directly looking at her, causing her to run for her life. However, he captures her while Arkin escapes using Brian's body as a protective shield. Arkin jumps out of a window, landing on a parked car. Enduring the pain, he gets as far away as he can from the building after seeing the collector looking at him. Arkin is brought to the hospital, disoriented and traumatized by flashbacks of torture. Despite this, the police officers arrest him because of his criminal records. As Arkin gains consciousness, his wife asks about what happened, but he isn't ready to talk about what he has gone through just yet. He notices flowers by the desk and realizes that the collector is the sender. He grows worried and advises his wife to stay at her mom's home for the time being. Just then, a man named Lucillo enters the room and introduces himself as a hired investigator. He was hired by Mr. Peters, Elena's father. Lucillo shows Elena's picture and asks if she has been at the party, which Arkin immediately confirms. According to Lucillo, he has 48 hours to retrieve the girl before the collector takes her life. He then asks for Arkin's participation in the search. Lucillo makes a call to Mr. Peters to inform him that Arkin has agreed to participate. All the while, Elena gets a flashback of the accident's aftermath where a strange-looking man appears to break the window and save her life. She then wakes up inside a box and sees a man being tortured from a small hole. Peeking through it, the collector senses her fear and gives her taunting looks. A team of mercenaries composed of Lucillo, Lynn, Dre, Wally, and Paz are brought together to hunt the collector, including Arkin. Arkin reveals how the killer captured him and how he took note of the journey by cutting his arms during every turn. He retraces the location, depending on his memories and his scars, and successfully leads the group to the collector's base. Meanwhile, Elena utilizes her bra to grip the latch and unlock the box from inside. She then sees a room filled with torture weapons and another box. In an attempt to free a fellow victim, she opens it only to find a man's corpse. In a matter of seconds, the collector re-enters, noticing Elena's escape, so he frees several spiders to reveal where she hides. As the small creatures creep on her, she remains still as the situation holds a thin line between life and death. When the mercenary group triggers the alarms, the collector immediately runs out of the room to check, giving Elena a chance to escape. Outside, Arkin refuses to enter the hotel, but Lucilo holds him at gunpoint, leaving him no choice but to show them the contents of the abandoned building. The Collector watches the group invade his space from the surveillance before putting on his black leather mask, which is his signature look. While the Collector is preoccupied, Elena manages to find an alternative exit and crawls toward the narrow space. She makes her way to the exit through the vents above, which Lynn notices. Unfortunately, Lynn, who is outside the hotel, gets stabbed to death by none other than the Collector himself. Inside, Arkin fights off a half-masked person. Fortunately, Paz comes to his rescue and shoots him. They examine the body and realize that the Collector performs experiments on his victims, almost turning them into wild animals. Shortly after, they find a pile of disassembled bodies, turning the place into a brutal slaughterhouse. As they speak, the Collector unlocks a cage that frees more victims who have turned zombie-like, attacking Lucilo's group. As a defense, they shoot at the half-masked subjects, who are too drugged and far gone into their creature minds. They manage to reach a safe room where they continue to carry out their mission of finding Elena. Unbeknownst to her, Elena tries to find a way out on her own and ends up in a room full of cosmetic products. She hears a woman crying for help and opens another box. A prisoner named Abby comes out of the box but is reluctant to leave out of fear that the Collector might catch her again. Discovering more about the hotel, the group encounters a shirtless man desperately asking for help. He cries while saying that he didn't make it to the collection. Just then, a bomb explodes from his neck. The explosion triggers a trap where 3 sharp bars impale Dre, causing his death. Arkin sees this as an opportunity to get out of the group's sight and finds an escape through a narrow trap. He ends up in a room with flickering lights, where the Collector comes from behind him. However, Arkin luckily escapes his captor unharmed once again. Meanwhile, Abby and Elena team up to escape, going through the deadly hallways together. Abby reveals that she is the Collector's favorite victim and is also very familiar with his traps. When she notices Elena's hearing aid, she panics and claims that Elena is not strong enough for the collection. Just as she is about to return to her box, the Collector blocks her way, making her sink into the floor out of fear. The sight of him terrifies Elena, so she runs away from him, also leaving the poor Abby behind. The Collector chases Elena around the place, but she manages to hide just above him. On the other hand, Arkin, deeply traumatized by his experiences, escapes both the mercenary group and the Collector. Being inside the hotel brings back unpleasant memories of when the Collector kept him captive, so he desperately tries to flee. Along the way, he encounters several traps that almost kill him, but he luckily dodges them. However, upon hiding from Wally, he falls into the pile of corpses and other dismembered body parts. After getting out of there, Arkin sets foot in a room full of preserved animals. In the meantime, Elena is still on her quest to find an exit, and in the process, she drops her hearing aid in a bear trap. She slowly tries to grab it to retrieve it, but the intense sensitivity of her aid makes it much harder. She finally gets it back without hurting herself and continues to make her way through the small alley. Arkin, who is still in the room, sees more preserved beings locked in capsules. Out of nowhere, he hears a voice asking for help. On the wall, she sees a woman in such a hopeless state as she is nailed. Despite feeling sorry for her, Arkin does not rescue her as it will risk his safety. Not long after, the Collector enters the room to check if Arkin is in there and slits the nailed woman's throat in the process. Still determined to be free, Elena stumbles into an empty room where she finds people outside through the torn wallpapers. She screams for help but to no avail as the people outside are too preoccupied. Ending up in an art room, Arkin gets knocked out by Wally and is captured by the mercenary group. Far from their knowledge, the Collector lets down a big hook and catches Wally, who gets dragged up as the killer faces Arkin, Paz, and Lucilo. The Collector comes face to face with them and successfully pushes Paz out of the scene with a zipline. He then uses Wally's weight to lift himself again, leaving the bloody mercenary dead on the floor. Arkin persuades Lucilo to leave Elena behind, but he refuses to do so as he was the one who took care of her ever since she was young. While they talk, Abby comes from behind to ask if she could also escape with them in exchange for tracking Elena down. The 3 of them advance but get distracted when they hear Paz's cries for help. In an attempt to rescue her, they get trapped inside a room full of mannequins, where Lucilo looks for her by listening to the screams. Noticing wires along the way, Arkin calls out to Lucilo to warn him that it is just a trap. Lucilo finds out that the screams only come from a speaker and not Paz herself, so he runs back as the mannequins explode one by one. Simultaneously, Elena has tracked Paz down and unties her from a net after hearing her screams as well. After Abby leads the way, they safely reunite, but Elena warns them not to trust Abby. Contrary to this, Lucilo calms her down as they both embrace, assuring her safety. Elena leads all of them into the room where they could have contact outside, but the two men are unable to hear them. To get their attention, Arkin shoots one of the men and leads police officers to gather around outside the building. Arkin fires a second shot, causing the officers to call for backup. After a slight moment of relief, Abby locks the door from the inside before she betrays the group and gives up their location. However, she dies after stepping on a board of nails and falling back into an iron trap, folding her inside. In a fit of rage, the Collector attacks the group with a gun and a pair of dogs who advance at them. While Paz, Arkin, and Lucilo are combating the wild dogs, the Collector kidnaps Elena and brings her to his lair. As they get up, they find Lucilo pinned to the ground with nails and with a bigger trap just above him. He commands Paz and Arkin to leave him behind and save Elena quickly. Both of them find her strapped to a bed and untie her just as a metal cage falls, trapping all of them inside. Enraged, Arkin repeatedly insults the Collector, calling him names as he calmly observes the group. At that moment, he brings out a lighter and makes it apparent that he is going to burn the building down before setting a thread in flames. Paz tries to unlock the cage with a knife but drops it in the process, leaving Arkin no choice but to sacrifice himself. By having Elena break his arm again, he reaches the latch and unlocks the cage, leaving himself severely injured. While the Collector drenches the place in gas, the three find an exit door to the safer part of the building. Sadly, the Collector tracks them down and stabs Paz from behind, immediately killing her. He also manages to throw Elena and Arkin across the room, but Lucilo enters just as the Collector plants another kill. In an intense knife fight, Lucilo and the Collector combat each other, but the latter wins. Arkin gets into a fistfight with the Collector, releasing all his anger and rage at the merciless criminal. As his final act, Arkin brutally beats the Collector and throws his body down a chute and onto a pile of corpses covered in gasoline before lighting it on fire. As the building gets eaten by fire, firefighters hear Elena's screams, so they tear the door from outside to rescue the remaining ones. Elena sees Arkin trapped in a massive circle of fire, who has seemingly given up. He just sits still in the middle of the flames, accepting his tragic fate, but Elena breaks one of the capsules, causing the fire to go off. It gives way for Arkin and her to come out safely as the doors collapse. Finally, Elena reunites with her father, who has been greatly worried about her safety. Meanwhile, Arkin finds the Collector's burned mask without a corpse inside a box, making him worry. After some time, Arkin tracks down the Collector's house by searching for every entomologist around the area. In the Collector's home, Arkin confronts him about his identity and says he will torture him as he tortured Arkin. Suddenly, the Collector attacks Arkin but is forced into a red box that Arkin brought. He desperately clings onto the sides of the red box as Arkin shuts the box, getting his ultimate revenge. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.